This is problem 87 from chapter 1 in your textbook. If you haven't already done so, please pause the recording and read the problem carefully, and then decide what it is exactly that the problem is asking you to calculate, and write that down. Okay, so it looks like it's fairly clear. The problem is asking us to calculate the annual production of carbon dioxide in kilograms. So I'm going to write that out down here below the paragraph so it's easier to see and for me to stay focused on what I'm looking for. Now the next step that you should do is to look at the paragraph and decide what is the most important information that is going to be useful for solving the problem. So I want you to take that information out of the paragraph and list it down below here in a list or a table. So you can go ahead and pause the recording and do that now. Okay, so it looks like the first thing they tell us is 9.5 kilograms of CO2 is produced for every gallon of gas. Then they also mention that there are 40 million cars. Okay, so that's 4.0 times 10 to the 7th cars. I'll write it in scientific notation to make it a little easier on us in the calculation. They also say that each car covers a distance of 5,000 miles, and they're saying that's the annual consumption. So distance is 5,000 miles per car. Okay, and our rate is 20 miles per gallon. So that's our fuel efficiency on average for each car. And remember that this distance covered is for each year. That's the annual distance covered by each car. Okay, so I think this is all the information we have. Now that we have this listed out, what we want to do next is to decide on a plan or a series of steps that are going to take us from this information that we have to what we want, which is CO2 produced by the cars in kilograms per year. So the first thing I'm noticing is, based on the units, miles per car and 20 miles per gallon, I could use the distance and rate information. So here's our plan, and I can use the distance and rate to get gallons of gas, and that's for each car. Okay, so then once I have gallons of gas for each car, since I know there's 4 times 10 to the 7th cars, if I multiply through by that many cars, I will have gallons of gas for the 40 million cars. And then notice that in the first thing we wrote down, 9.5 kilograms CO2, that's per gallon of gas. So that is a conversion factor for gallons of gas to CO2. So if I want to convert from gallons of gas to CO2, I can use that, and that should give me the total kilograms of CO2 produced. So that's my plan. Now let's execute this. I'm going to start by writing out again what we're looking for: total mass in kilograms of CO2, and that we're going to start with our 5,000 miles per car. Okay, and remember that's in a year, times 1 gallon per 20 miles. So notice that I've inverted that so that the miles will cancel out, leaving us with units of gallons, which is where I would like to be next. We're going to take that times 4.0 times 10 to the 7th cars, and then cars will cancel out, still leaving us with gallons as our unit. But now we have total gallons of gas. So let's multiply that through by 9.5 kilograms of CO2 per gallon of gas. And notice now our gallons cancel, leaving us with units of mass in kilograms of CO2. Look at that. Okay, so that's our unit left. And of course, remember that's in 1 year. Just plugging that into my calculator, I get 1.9 times 10 to the 12 kilograms of CO2 per 1 year. And that's a large number, but that seems to make sense given the large number of cars and the fact that this is over the course of a whole year. So if the answer seems to make sense, then we can feel pretty confident it's good. And the last thing you probably want to do is just go back and recheck your math, recheck your plan and the execution just to make sure that you feel comfortable with it. But otherwise, this looks pretty good.